Are we recording? Okay, there we go. Hey y'all, it's your girl Angela Cherie, and we are back for another episode. We are still talking about the things that we need to talk about, having some honest conversations about us and our people, and tonight is no different. I have Mr. Alix Hogu with me. How are you, Alix?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Y'all know I'm hanging in there. The best we can, hanging in there. So I'm excited about having this conversation because I feel like it's needed, necessary, and it's going to be informative. I'm sure I'm going to learn some things. But before we jump into that conversation, let the people know who you are and what it is that you do, because we see the logo, we see the brand awareness today. Let us know who you are.
Sure. So my name is Alix Hogu. I'm actually the founder and also the lead trainer at Five Diamond Fitness and Wellness here in Dallas. Pretty much what I do is any clients that comes to the gym, they train with me. So everything in our gym is pretty much one-on-one personal training. For you to even be a part of this, member, you have to have a personal trainer, whether it's myself, one of our other trainers. And we also offer other services like massage therapy as well as nutrition. So it's pretty much a full fitness and wellness center overall. So we touch upon everything. And I've been in Dallas for about 7 years now, liking it. And from up north, Boston. I lived in Boston for a while, lived in New York for a little while. And then here I am in Dallas trying to make it happen,
All right.
Yeah.
I heard a little something. I ain't know where.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I have the Caribbean accent as well, so yeah.
Okay, I knew it was something. I'm like, I hear something in there. What's going on? Awesome. I love that. I love that you all have a different approach there at Five Diamonds with the personal training. I think that's super important because you always have an accountability partner. So we'll get into that a little bit more, and I'll have the people know where they can find you and all that good stuff. But we're talking about honest conversations, and tonight we're going to be talking about generational health. This is such a needed conversation because a lot of us have seen our family members die at early ages. We've seen many people in our family members, die from the same things, pass away from the same things. And so I thought it was important to have someone who does focus on fitness and wellness to join me in this conversation. But I first want to ask you, how did this come about? Where did the passion for fitness and wellness come about?
So this happened about, I want to say 22 years ago, back in college. So I actually trained with the Olympian star, a guy who actually, compete worldwide. So he was actually my first trainer. So the way this came about was my father was diagnosed with, he was diabetic. So at that point, I realized that there must have been like either junior or senior in college or something like that. And I realized I can't, seeing how he got there in regards to his health, and it was not hereditary, by the way. This is all unhealthy habits, eating sweets late at night and things like that, eating late. So stuff that could have been avoided. As you know, this happens a lot in our families, in our communities. So I decided to take a different approach. So my thing was, okay, well, I'm going to take a different approach in terms of getting more into fitness and wellness, just in overall. So I ended up getting a trainer, and then that was pretty much it. Fell in love with fitness and started doing it years after. And then after a while, it just became a lifestyle. It's one of those things where if I don't go to the gym for about 2 days, I feel, like I'm going crazy. But it really is a lifestyle once you get into it and you start feeling better. People think it's a facade or whatever, but no, really, like once you go into it, like maybe about 6 months to a year, your body just transforms, and just everything is just feel a lot better, a lot lighter. And from that point on, it was just a lifestyle, But what prompted me was the fact that my father was diagnosed with diabetes, and then that kind of led me to kind of think and take a different lifestyle approach. So.
Yeah. I love when people have stories, because a lot of times our stories do fuel our passions and our
Right.
purpose and what we go on to do in our lives. And the fact that you broke it with you, it stopped with you.
Mm,
Although you said it wasn't hereditary, it could have been if you didn't take heed from
absolutely.
his life. And I always say this because we say things are hereditary at the same time. It started with somebody and it started because of something. You know what I'm
True.
saying?
That's
So I
true.
think that we do have to look at our mindsets as it pertains to our health and wellness. And that's kind of what I want to start off with, our generational mindsets as it pertains to health and what we eat and what we do. Because, I know my older, people in my family that are older, they don't go to the doctor like they should. If they are going to the doctor regularly, it's because they have to.
Hmm.
It's because they're already sick and they have to continue going. When they do go and the doctor tells them what they need to do, they do not listen.
Right.
They do not take their medication like they're supposed to. It's or feeling like they're okay because
Hmm.
Big Mama had it. I know in my family, diabetes is, most of my family members have diabetes. Thank God that I do not. I need to do better though. And high blood pressure.
Mm,
Those are two things that
that's a
are,
big one.
yeah. And then on my dad's side, cancer. And those are like three of the top seven that, African Americans deal with.
Yeah.
And so I just want to ask you, like, because again, you've seen it in your own family, and I'm sure you run across people who come to you when they're trying to change their lifestyle. Why do you think that is? Like, where does that mindset kind of come from? Again, it's generational, but why do you think that we don't always, I guess, take the best care of ourselves or look at our family members and say, hey, like you did, it's going to stop with me?
So there's two parts to this answer. So the first part I'm going to say is life. As you can tell, there's a lot of stuff that we deal with that
Yeah.
others don't. Simply just be real, honest about it. So I think in that sense, we kind of tend to stay away, or not so much stay away, but more so kind of like don't have a high regard for stuff like self-care. you know we're so busy working, to put food on the table, that a lot of times we just don't take some time to really think about some of the things that we should be doing for ourselves. um so that's one thing. And then another thing too is a part of it is us, but also another part is also systematic as well. For example, Oak
Yes.
Cliff, let's take Oak Cliff, and just any hood, anywhere black communities within the country, there's a situation going on with food desert. That's a
Yeah.
topic that most people don't really talk about, but it's a real thing. When I say about food desert, in terms of like, where do you find places with healthy foods, organic foods, but if you go right
Yes.
around the corner, you come on
Affordable.
affordable, and then across, we come out, you see, you know 5-10 blocks, about 2 to 3 liquor stores. So at the end of the day, part of it too is I think systematic, but we also have to do our part in terms of seeing that situation kind of um, do better. And you mentioned
Mhm.
something about generational habits, and I think, and in my opinion, I think our past generation has done a better job with that, in regards to making sure that they have home remedies. I think this
Yeah,
generation and the
that's
younger
true.
generation, I mean, stuff like simple stuff, ginger, garlic,
Mhm.
those things work wonders. Local honey, for allergies. So stuff like this. So I think this generation, of more recent generations, focus a little bit more on, just the drugs that you get at the pharmacies or whatnot. But I think, there's a lot of stuff that could alleviate some of this, or even revert some of the illnesses that we
Yeah.
have in our communities, just by simple remedies. For example, I've
Yeah.
actually had
Yeah.
clients where they were pre-diabetic, not full-on diabetic, but we've actually revert that just to simple fitness and wellness, um, measures. So with that being said, I think, a lot of it is, and it sounds cliche, but a lot of it is simple things that we can do on a day-to-day basis that
Mhm.
would alleviate, even eradicate some of those things, within our communities as far as health wise.
That's good. Like you dropped a whole lot of nuggets in there. And it's true. Some of them I didn't even think about, but you're so right in the fact that, like my mother, my grandmother, they always, especially my mother, if you tell her you have a headache or something going on, she's like, take this, take some fish oil, take your omega-3s. Like she's so, and my father too. They both, I don't know what happened to me, but both of them are very like holistic. And I've taken that on in my 30s. I've taken that on, where I drink, my Enacia tea every morning for immunity support. I listen, I am a firm believer in elderberry. Anybody who knows me knows that if you feel something, I'm gonna get some elderberry. They hate hearing me say that, but I'm grateful for that I do have a mother that did, kind of help me with that or help me learn that. And something you said about, the systemic part of it, because it is a real thing. And like you said, not a lot of people talk about it, but I want people to also know that even if this is something you're experiencing in your neighborhood or in your vicinity of where you live, because we always say that healthy food is too expensive. I can't afford it. Can you speak to that? Because although there are things that hinder us, how can we be helped? Like, I want to take away that issue and provide a resolution, because I know I've said that for me as well. Like, it's too expensive to eat healthy. But what I know what I would say, but I want you're the pro, so I want you to speak to that.
I agree with you 100%. I think, again, it starts from within. So you got to actually, at some point, you got to take action and take responsibility for yourself as well. So yes, there's hardly any Whole Foods or any Sprouts or anything like that within our communities, because it's so expensive. But with that being said, there's other options like local farmers market. You can get organic food there. There's so many different, local farms or places that you can go and get actually a bulk of food items. Or I actually have a friend of mine in Atlanta who's actually growing his own garden. Obviously that's a lot of work, but there's things that we can do to kind of take the lead and take actions within our communities.
That's
and
good.
to go from there. So I think you're right. There are several things that we can do. We don't necessarily have to rely on the Whole Foods and the Sprouts to come into our neighborhoods. To
Because I
provide
have them
those
in my
things.
neighborhood and I'm still not going because it's too high.
Because it's crazy because you go in there, you come out with 2 items and then you end up paying $100. It doesn't make sense. I mean, realistically, when you can go somewhere else and get a whole cart of items for half the price. And I get it, and I totally understand.
But
the
I
mindset.
love the gardening aspect. That's becoming big. I've seen in the pandemic as well, because you can't find items. And so I have a friend of mine. She has a green thumb, and on weekends, that's what she's doing. I know she's in her backyard and she's planting and labeling. And I think that is really good. Not just because you don't have to, necessarily rely on the food chains, but it's really inexpensive. It is like little to nothing to buy these seeds, and it's so easy to do.
It just requires time. It just requires time. And if you have the time to really dedicate that on a weekend or something like that, it's definitely worth it. I mean, a friend of mine, like I said, he has a full, and he doesn't even have a big yard. It's just, a very small backyard. And he has a full on, he's growing all types of vegetables in the back, organically. So again, there's things we can actually take and do within ourselves that kind of alleviate some of those situations as well. Among other things, such as, again, going back to the remedies, there's I like to focus on the preventative aspect of it as well. We talk about nutrition, but there's also preventative actions that we can take to avoid us getting to the point where we actually have those ailments. So again, those remedies are key to kind of revert back to where we need to be. And then there's mental health, which we'll probably get that in a little while. That's something that's crucial, because it's, about mind, body, and soul. That's all that stuff is just really interconnected, really, when you think about it. So, and that's why we kind of embody the whole idea of the mind, body, and soul here at Five Diamond Fitness, in the sense that we do have the fitness We also have the massage therapy for like the self-care part of it, but also the
Oh,
nutrition. We
that's
have a
good.
dietitian that does the nutrition part of it. So, because that's the only way you're really gonna achieve anything. Really, you can have all the exercises in the world, but if you're not don't have the right mindset or the right nutrition to kind of go along with that, kind of defeats the whole purpose. You know.
Very true. And I'll
Um,
say this, as before we kind of move on to that aspect, when people say they don't have the money and it's not, and I get it. I totally understand. I'm not saying that that isn't a real thing, but the amount of money that you're going to spend for medications, the
yeah,
amount of money that you're going to spend in and out of the hospital and the doctor,
yeah.
yeah,
And I
it's
always
not.
say this: it's discipline too. You know, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, we have to do a better job as far as really prioritizing our health. Anything that's important, like we get up every day to go out to our jobs and make time for things that are important to us. So I don't think people really understand how crucial and how important your health is in the overall scheme of things. Because at the end of the day, that job is still gonna be there, with or
Mm,
without you. I understand you need to put food on the table, but at the same time, without you, where does your
that's so
family
true.
goes?
That is so
So,
true.
it's also the discipline, the mindset. You kind of have to change certain things, as uncomfortable as it may be.
Yeah.
Um, you have to kind of, especially now with this pandemic. I mean, you're at a point where you kind of this no longer a luxury thing. People used to look at this, health, wellness and self care as a luxury. No, it's never been a luxury.
Mm,
It's things that you
that's,
actually need to live a life, of just a lifelong of just health. And I think a lot of us tend to look at that as a luxury, and it's really a necessity. And
very
more
true.
so now during this pandemic than ever.
Hmm.
So we have to kind of get at that mindset of, oh, I can't afford this because, oh, I don't have money for a massage. It doesn't have to be that. It can be something as simple as scheduling a time to go for a 30-minute walk every day. That's self-care right there.
Yeah.
Take some time to meditate, whatever the case, prayers, whatever the case may be. Just make sure you designate that time to really put forth the effort, and
Yeah.
the same way you go to work, you have schedule for everything else. Make a schedule for yourself.
Yeah.
So
And the same way you take care of everyone else, the same way you
absolutely,
look after everyone else. I heard you say prioritizing our health, and I think it just goes to prioritizing yourself. And I
absolutely.
think that we do struggle with that. I don't know if that's, goes back to, the way we're treated in the world,
Mm-hmm.
or if we just live that out. I don't know, but I know I struggle with it. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
are times where I don't sleep because I'm up working, I'm up grinding.
Mm-hmm.
But something you said kind of really hit home. Like, if you're not here, all of this work is in vain, and you know what I'm saying? It won't matter. It won't matter
Mm-hmm.
once you're gone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I think that we just have to do a better job of really loving on ourselves, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
whole reason for this season and the theme of it, that we know that we are special and we deserve to, like you said, take care of ourselves, to make sure that we are okay, before it's too late. Like you said, the
Yeah.
preventative things. And you
Yeah.
talked about and touched on mental health. That is a huge one, because we ignore signs. We ignore a lot of signs, and we deal with the most stress and trauma of any other race. So of course
Yeah.
it's going to affect our mental.
Mm-hmm.
I know during this pandemic, I looked at the rates. The rates for mental illness have skyrocketed for African Americans.
Absolutely.
But if you look at what we've seen, if you look at the body cameras and the videos we've seen, if you look at, what I'm saying, how our communities have been, disproportionately affected, no wonder. No
Mm-hmm.
wonder. But we can't just keep acting like we're so strong and we are okay when
Right.
we're not. And I
Right.
keep telling myself, when I have days where I'm like, I'm not feeling myself, I tell myself it's okay not to be okay. Like, lay
Mm-hmm.
down today.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to talk today, don't talk. If you don't want to be bothered, don't be bothered. Like you said, do something for yourself to kind of help you
Absolutely.
get on track. And if you need to talk to somebody, reach out and talk to somebody.
Right.
Go
Right.
get help.
Yeah. It's funny you mention this because we look at help as a sign of weakness, and I know we're very resilient probably the most
Very.
resilient people on earth.
Yes.
But with that being said, at the same time, that doesn't mean that that resilience is something that's healthy in the long run. Just because
Mhm.
you're resilient, you're able to deal with certain things doesn't necessarily mean that you have to deal with certain things. Again,
Or you should.
reach out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then to the topic of mental wellness, another caveat to that is systematic. There's very little resources within our communities for that as well. So you
Mm.
have two issues there. So you have that, um, you know, as far as the lack of resources within our communities for mental health,
Yeah.
and then secondly, you have insurance, the healthcare system is
Yeah.
if you work in, you know, uh, if you have a day-to-day job where you're actually getting, you get paid by the hourly, you may not have insurance benefits. How do you go about getting help when you need it? So
Yeah.
again, we don't have a system where, like Canada, where they have a universal, medical system, healthcare system. Here is a little different. So we kind of have to fend for ourselves. But with that being said, I think that's where, you know, there's some things we can do as a community to really come up with better ways to kind of look out for each other, really.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people. I think about these issues a lot, into the sense that I actually come up with some solutions, and and then kind of go back to what we do. We do have a aspect of our company that does corporate wellness programs. So now I'm actually thinking of ways to kind of create wellness programs for our communities, you know, really educating people and going into the schools, uh, the places of worship,
Oh, that's
different
a big one.
organizations. So again, there's ways we can kind of go and really educate people and really provide those programs to really enlighten them to really become better, citizens of this for themselves, but also for others as well. It's just a long issue that's been going on for quite some time. We have a lot of stuff going on against, the Black community, food deserts, the healthcare system, and those things. But at some point, one has to say, you know what, I have to do for self. What
Yeah.
can I do? Whether it's a small, um, contribution, what can I do? You have to start somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
it
Gotta
takes
start
one
somewhere.
program to kind of now flourish into something bigger than life. So, um, again, I think, you know, we have to take actions, but at the same time, we can't allow these outside sources to really dictate how we live our life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what
And
we've
you
been doing
said
for
something
years.
really good, like checking on each other. I think
Yeah.
that's super important. Like, the people around you usually. Now, sometimes
Hmm.
there are things that miss us. It happens to us all. But if someone is acting, visibly acting out of character, they're not
Hmm.
themselves, they're more withdrawn, they are wanting to isolate themselves. That's a good indicator that something may be going on. Their, eating
Absolutely.
habits have changed, sleeping habits. It's okay to ask someone if they're okay. And it's also, I always say it's okay to push a little bit, because sometimes they'll be like,
Hmm.
oh no, I'm okay. But when a friend and family member, sometimes you may not even see, you just feel it. Like we, as a people, we like something don't feel right. You just
Absolutely.
know. So I think that is something that we, I want us to really implement in just looking out for each other, because like you said,
Hmm.
like the outside sources won't, so we have to do it inside.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think people understand how valuable social media can be. Um, there are some, you know, downsides, but
Of course.
hashtags are super important. So if you
Yeah.
put in Black health, Black mental health, or Black mental or health wellness, you will get so many pages and accounts that
Hmm.
probably can offer some resources to you for whatever you're dealing with or whatever you're needing help with.
Absolutely.
And lastly, this is why also what we're talking about with the disparities and things that we go through in our communities. This is why voting is also very important
Mm.
as it pertains to healthcare,
Absolutely.
not just presidentially, because we always talk about that and all the hype comes up in November, but locally,
Yeah.
also the census, making
Yeah.
sure that the areas who need it get it. Sometimes it still ain't gonna happen because we already know what we up against.
Right,
but
right.
there are, when you're talking about things that we can do, those are things that we can do. And if we feel like, oh, I'm not gonna vote, it ain't gonna make a difference, it won't. It won't make a difference, you know, if you don't. So I think that those are some things too that I just like to add to say, hey, we can do a little something. And we can't, I always say, man, I can't change the world, but we can start right in our worlds. And I think that's really, really important. So we're going to end with this. Listen, this pandemic has came, and I know myself, I don't know what I thought, but I guess I was hoping that, you know, it would come like, you know, a seasonal thing like flu or something, and it would leave. And here we are. What are we, 5-6 months in?
7 months. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And many of us have put on some pounds that we're trying to get off, and we're trying to find ways to remain healthy in this pandemic. Give us a few tips in closing that we can kind of garner and start to do so that we can stay healthy in this pandemic, healthy and fit.
Sure. So as far as the fitness part, also, I mean, people have to realize that it's not about just what you eat, but also how you eat. You know, for example, if you're eating every night after 9, more than likely you're probably gonna, you know, gain a few pounds. So it's all about smaller portions, eating when you need to eat, eating the healthy stuff, obviously, but also eating I tell my clients all this all the time, you know, don't eat past 7:30 at the latest, you know, and be careful what you eat, obviously. And I think, you know, staying hydrated, something as simple as that. And, you know, Angela, I tell you, a lot of the stuff, you'll be surprised at the amount of stuff that we can do that is just simple stuff, you know. I always tell people, stay hydrated, drink half the amount of ounces of your weight per day. And you should be good. That's a huge plus right there, in terms of like dealing with certain illnesses and you know, immune booster really much. So I think people don't realize how important those little simple things are. So yeah, it's just, you know, 9 hours of sleep, 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day. Just try the best during this pandemic to stay to welcome the idea of just self-care. You know, start somewhere, you know. So that's pretty much it.
That's good. That's good. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise.
You brought up a lot of points that I didn't even think about. So it was really good. So let the people know how they can find you and stay in contact with you and learn more about Five Diamond Fitness
and Wellness. Yes. So 5 Diamond Fitness and Wellness, you can get us on Instagram at 5 Diamond Fitness. Website is www.5diamondfitness.com. We're actually in Dallas. So check us out, you know, leave us a message, and we'll definitely get back to you for sure.
All right. Y'all heard it here. Thank you, Alix, for joining me.
Thank you, Angela. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Until next time, you're listening to and watching the Ever Evolving Podcast.
Take care now.
Let me stop the recording. Let's see. Stop.